Bad Movie Beatdown. Earlier this year, you may recall a very unusual occurrence happening. Sandra Bullock winning Best Actress at the Academy Awards. Of course not, I kid. What I mean to say is that Bullock not only managed to pick up the Best Actress award for The Blind Side, but also Worst Actress at the Razzies the night before, a first. Sandra, to her credit, used the situation to her advantage and pulled a Halle Berry.
No, but this is really wonderful for the most important reason, because they said no one went to go see this film, but I know that there's over 700 members here. But see, something tells me you all didn't really watch the film, because I wouldn't be here if you really watched it and understood what I was trying to say. So, we brought everyone in the audience tonight a DVD of All About Steve.
In a way, this is a testament to the power of casting. In The Blind Side, Sandra improved the movie by being perfectly cast. In All About Steve, Sandra is stunningly miscast and drags the film down around her. What makes this even more perplexing is that she is the producer of this movie, which is weird since she also produced Miss Congeniality and 2 Weeks Notice, both vehicles that play towards her strengths. You can see how desperate the movie is from the tagline on the DVD. What happens when the girl from The Proposal goes after the guy from The Hangover? You liked those movies last summer, so please see our shitty movie. Please! Never mind the fact that neither are reprising their roles from either movie. So we immediately open with Bullock as Mary Horowitz, who creates crossword puzzles for a local newspaper in Sacramento. Already in the opening she seems disturbed, with the gearish red boots obsessing over anyone with a crossword and a startling lack of social skills. Bullock hasn't even uttered a single word yet and already we know something is definitely wrong.
And we could be just like the New York Times, where the puzzle gets harder as the week goes. So on Monday, a day that traditionally bites the big one...
This isn't the New York Times. We're a local paper. Our readers just want to have fun.
If fun is what they want, then Mary Horowitz has their fun. Ta-da! For St. Patty's Day. Top of the morning to you.
Textbook obsessive-compulsive behaviour there.
Less work, more of everything else. Just enjoy being normal.
Martin, I need that feature on the pumpkin shortage. Is it ready?
Be normal.
Here's a tip, love. Writing down a note to be normal, it's not normal.
If I survive this, I'm supposed to go on a blind date tonight. Yeah, Steve. His mother probably thinks he's gay. So my parents are no doubt pimping me out to test his sexuality, thanks. Though I could use a little, yeah.
Lady, I didn't ask for a conversation and quite frankly, you're scaring me. So Mary has to make a career day presentation to some school children.
Imagine, if you will, a world.
World! Daniel, you have a question.
You make a living doing that? One puzzle a week can't make you enough to live on.
My parents have graciously permitted me to bunk at their abode while my apartment is being fumigated.
You live with your parents?
You don't have a husband, do you?
Or a boyfriend.
Shut up, you little shits, I'll sock you right in the mouth. And what does this scene have to do with the plot? Absolutely nothing. It's always good when there's a pointless scene before the opening credits have even finished. So Mary goes back to her parents' home and speaks to her hamster.
If this Stephen is anything better than excessively hideous, I think we really should try and make it work. Oh, and Carol, I really would appreciate your support on this, too. And by support, I don't mean that.
Oh god, an animal reaction shot, the laziest form of humour. Welcome to comedy hell. So Steve, played by Bradley Cooper, arrives, and since he's handsome and definitely not gay, Mary slots up for him appropriately. Steve takes her to his van, where she starts making out with him in the first 30 seconds. Okay, this woman is outright scary. Whilst I wouldn't mind Sandra Bullock jumping on me, maybe save that till after dinner.
Do you like crosswords?
Now there's an erection killer if I ever heard one.
Okay. Oh. Wow, Stephen, it's like we're two rare earth elements just brought together by the Norns. It's Scandinavian for the destinies.
Okay, there's no disputing it. Mary is a crazy psycho woman. And bear in mind, this is our protagonist. Naturally, Steve does the thing any sensible man would do in this situation by faking getting a phone call and ditching her the first chance he gets.
Oh, he likes cookies.
There is something seriously wrong with you, woman. Get help. In her warped mind, however, Mary believes this date went well. We also get narration from Mary, which is like taking a skinny dip in the mind of a sociopath.
My hero is Manny Nasowski, frequent New York Times contributor and all-around cruciverbal master. Manny says that a crossword puzzle's greatness can be determined by asking 3 simple questions. Is it solvable? Is it entertaining? Does it sparkle?
When it comes to this movie, no, hell no! Soon after, Mary's latest crossword is published and the whole of Sacramento is baffled by it because it's all about Steve. Apparently, the Sacramento Herald does not employ any editors whatsoever.
1 across Steve's eye color, 5 across Steve's car odor, 20 across Steve's lips taste like...
Mint explosion.
Are we meant to find this funny? Because I'm not laughing, I'm terrified! Obviously, Mary gets fired from her job. Speaking of unprofessionalism...
Which one of you geniuses can explain this?
Feller just needs to...
Yeah, what I was going for here was Western motif, sort of the iconic flower, and then I needed a backdrop, like a mountainous range. Boom! 2 mountains.
If real cameramen pulled that shit, they would be fired. This is news network CCN, who Steve works for as a cameraman. His boss is played by Keith David, and he works with egotistical presenter Hartman Hughes, played by Thomas Hayden Church, and producer Angus, played by Ken Jeong. Despite being fired, Mary remains optimistic about her chances with Steve.
Do you know what's at work here? Pistas, clues, they're everywhere. Steve says it would be great if I could be on the road with him. But of course I cannot because I have a job. I no longer have a job. Onward, Mary Horowitz. Onward. Go be with Steve.
Yes, despite the fact you knew him for less than 10 minutes, you're clearly made for him. You have no clue how crazy you are, do you? Steve is at the scene of a hostage situation in Tucson, Arizona. So Mary decides to make tracks to that location and meet Steve. She does this by bus.
You know what they make there? No, they make steel. I won't bore you with the whole story, just the best parts, like how it's made from molten pig iron, which does not, as everyone might think, have anything to do with pigs or swines or hogs. It's a method perfected by Sir Henry Bessemer. Oh, and Bessemer is also a town in Alabama. And you know what they have there? Hitler's typewriter.
I never thought I'd say this, but they've actually managed to make me want to see Sandra Bullock die slowly and painfully. That's quite an accomplishment. The other people on the bus agree with me, and the driver dumps her off in the middle of nowhere, forcing her to acquire another means of transportation, which is given to her by a trucker.
May I see your license, please? Norm, if you are going to rape and murder me, you are going to have to cut my body up into 1,000,000 chunks and scatter me all over 4 states, because this appendage will lead homicide detectives right to you.
Not if he feeds you through a wood chipper.
And my other rules about crossword is this: no pencils. If you're going to do a crossword puzzle, you need to do it with abandon and with a pen. It's about choosing your path, Norm, and just committing to it.
Well, I figure that when you miss a bus, maybe you weren't meant to take it.
Here's another homespun philosophy. If a movie sucks, you were not meant to watch it. Oh wait, that's stupid.
Hey, Norm.
Mary?
Thanks for not raping me.
My pleasure.
I don't even think I can say anything to that. It pretty much speaks for itself. So Mary finally arrives at the scene, only to discover that Steve is no longer there. She hears a story on the radio and makes her way to Oklahoma. Yes, she rushes to the scene even though she has no idea that he would be there. She's not just obsessive, she's an idiot. Luckily for Mary, Steve and his team are in Oklahoma, reporting on a story about a baby born with a 3rd leg and the ensuing custody battle between the parents, one of whom wants to remove the extra leg. Mary arrives on the scene and promptly terrorizes Steve for a few moments, but then a security guard comes along and sends her down to the protesters, who want the baby to keep the leg, and of course they're all oddballs like herself. Mary's not mentally ill, she's unique. Uniquely creepy. Steve lets slip that Mary is following him, and Hartman, playing a prank on Steve, invites Mary to the news tent.
When you saw him today, did he seem like a man whose heart and loins were full of joy?
I don't know.
It's because he's afraid, Mary.
Oh.
He's afraid you're gonna break his heart.
Yes.
If he tells you to go, you don't go. He starts throwing words around like cuckoo and loony and crazy. That's his fear talking. All right?
Yeah, take advantage and reinforce the deranged delusions of a clearly mentally unstable woman, you contemptible prick. Steve sees Mary in the news tent and takes her outside.
This is another one of your pranks, huh? I don't know what you're into, Iago. You better tell her the truth, okay? And that I really I don't want you here. I'm sorry.
Yep, keep egging her on. That's really helping the situation, jackass. This results in a fight between Hartman and Steve accidentally gets hit in the face with his camera. Mary, undeterred, goes to get a tissue.
Steve, I'm coming.
No. Ma'am, you can't go back.
Oh, it's so funny how she potentially could have seriously injured him by being a moron.
What the hell was that?
It's this girl who Steve invited, sir.
I didn't invite her.
There's a hurricane off the coast of Texas. Get to it. If you three weren't the closest crew to Galveston, you'd be hitchhiking home by now.
Because that obvious accident was clearly a fireable offence. The CCN crew are about to drive away to the next story, but Mary catches up to them before they can leave.
Why are you stalking him?
No, I'm not stalking. Stalking's an obsessive pursuit of prey.
Which is exactly what you're doing right now, dipstick.
So, Mary,
Yes.
we're going to Galveston, and there's a big storm there. What do you know about Galveston?
What are you doing?
You should come.
Alright, stop it now. This joke has gone too far. It's verging on cruel.
You know what word you never see in crosswords? Go.
As in, go and off. Since the baby kept the extra leg, the protesters are available to give Mary a lift in a gremlin.
Oh, did you replace a 2-wire ignition connector?
Yes, the reverse doesn't work and sometimes it stalls, but otherwise it's good as new.
That is amazingly good parking for a car that can't reverse. So Mary and her new friends travel towards the heart of the storm like the Darwin Award candidates that they are.
A little wrinkled old lady.
Yeah, that's Mother Teresa. She's my bestseller. I'm an apple sculptor.
Really? I love apples.
Can that hurricane come any sooner, please? As if someone divine heard me, the group of weirdos literally bump into a tornado. The gremlin refuses to start, so we get a bizarrely out-of-place sequence where they have to flee into a storm drain.
Curse words. Maybe these words aren't such a good idea in some places, such as crosswords or kindergarten, but when amongst friends and in a sewer, it's perfectly acceptable to have a mouth like one.
Shut the fuck up! The whole hurricane subplot is forgotten just as soon as it was introduced, as we move on to our final story, a group of deaf children falling into a collapsed mine. So you're picking zany news stories for your comedy, and you go with the one about the deaf children? That's just nasty and mean-spirited.
Yeah, I just heard. Who are we sending to cover it? What? Is there no one else?
Are they the only news team on this news network? They've been to 4 different states in less than 72 hours. On their travels, the crew, by massive coincidence, encounter the wreckage, and Steve is so fearful of Mary, he's donned a disguise. Isn't it funny how he's terrified for his own safety? Continuing his state of dickish behaviour, Hartman throws out a bucket with their next location inscribed, causing Steve to freak out.
Hey, you think this is funny? I say, you little
Shut up! Just shut up! Just shut up! Just shut up! There you go! Shut up! Mary is not a psycho. You're the psycho. She's just a smart girl with red boots.
So he's in the wrong? For what? Being afraid that the woman who stalked him across several states might be a raving lunatic? Oh yeah, he's really the psycho here. That's it. I've had it with this bullshit. I'm going.
You know what one of my favorite ingredients of crosswording is? Perseverance. If you quit a puzzle, you can't finish it. Sure, every once in a while you run into a doozy that you don't think you could ever solve in a million years, but if you stick with it, you figure it out. Worst thing you can do is leave it unfinished.
Damn it, her stirringly cliche speech is right. I have to finish this to the bitter end. For you guys. As firemen rescue the deaf children from the hole in Colorado, the misfits travel there. Okay, how is that car still working? It was sucked into a tornado! Mary arrives at the scene and proves that she is the dumbest person in history by not noticing a giant hole with a crane sticking out of it. If she's so smart, movie, how come she does these incredibly stupid things, huh? Because the crane is broken, rescue workers are desperate to try and help her. Personally, I leave her down there and do us all a favour. With Mary trapped in the mine, a media frenzy ensues. I forgot to mention that this movie is also a satire of TV news that is about as cutting as baby teeth. Mary lights a torch, because who knows what gases could be down there, and discovers that the rescue workers accidentally forgot a child. This now turns her into a hero in the eyes of the media once they catch word of this. Steve is interviewed.
I mean, she sees things that other people don't. I mean, she knows everything. Everything but who not to trust, and how not to get hurt, and how to survive us.
Mary's not a stalker. She's a naive woman in a cruel, cruel world, because we're the bad ones here. Might I remind you that mere hours ago, this guy was afraid she might kill him. Not to mention that several scenes in the movie have been accompanied with Jaws-style music when she appears. What a bunch of bloody hypocrites! Hope for Mary and the child are falling due to the risk of gases or the mine collapsing in on them. Even Mary is beginning to lose hope.
Mary, why can't you be like every other girl? Mary, you know, it's this... Oh, in the piece de resistance, yes. Mary, why do you wear those stupid red boots all the time? I wear them because they make my toes feel like 10 friends on a camping trip.
What? Lady, you're not right in the head. If you were that smart, you realise how dumb what you just said was.
Hughes, you wrote the note telling Mary to come here. You brought her here. And if she dies...
Oh yes, it was his fault she ran into the mine as opposed to her own dumb fault. Thanks to sign language, Mary gets an idea that she will set up a weight that will lift her and the girl out to safety using the damaged crane, rocks and a minecart. So it looks like this movie might be over.
I'm coming to save you!
What the... You idiot! You just made this movie even longer, you bastard! Thankfully, he only manages to add 5 more minutes to the film because after some slight weight adjustments, Mary puts her plan into motion, lifting them to the surface.
Oh, Mary, are you okay?
A few lacerations, but I was able to tourniquet them off with this bandana that
I never
found.
should have said anything to you that, I didn't mean. Oh, sorry.
Of course, he's the one apologising. But, on the plus side, at least they weren't stupid enough to put Steve and Mary together at the end. Which is something, I guess.
New York Times crossword editor Will Short says we have a natural compulsion to fill empty spaces. I like to think he means not just crosswords. I try to fill my empty spaces with words, and puzzles, and Steve. But that wasn't the answer. Now I know. On the journey of life, just find someone as normal as you.
Yep, be yourself, even though we spent half the film mocking Mary. Like in the bus scene. We were clearly meant to sympathise with the bus passengers in that scene, not Mary. The film is entirely based on a contradiction.
And here's a little bit of fresh Mary Horowitz wisdom. If you love someone, set him free. If you have to stalk him, he probably wasn't yours in the first place.
Oh yeah, just tack on that bit of narration and it takes care of all the creepy undertones. Wait, no it doesn't. And there's also a post-credits tag where Hartman's news rival decides to jump into the hole himself. He could die down there, that's so funny. Just what on earth is All About Steve meant to be about exactly? Despite the marketing, it's not a rom-com. The relationship is strictly one-sided and they don't get together at the end. It fails horrendously at TV news satire with all the gags being obvious. And as a comedy about being yourself, why does the first half mock its protagonist? This is a huge flaw with the film, only exacerbated by Sandra Bullock as Mary. The character is terribly written and Sandra is at least 15 years too old for the part. With someone like Anna Ferris, her ditziness might have been charming, but with a 40-something actress, it looks positively disturbing. Oh, and constantly spouting crossword wisdom is definitely not endearing. As for the other actors, they're simply stuck in bland parts. The film is misconceived on virtually every level. I'm Matthew Buck, beating down bad movies everywhere.
It's pretty much a film about a woman stalking a man. That doesn't really set up the premise for a loving couple. So to give us the worst couple award is kind of a duh.